Hello everyone, my name is Lim Dao Kan, and this is my group. These are my group members, and we'll be discussing whether video games should be banned to teenagers. Basically, a lot of countries have already banned video games for teenagers because they think that video games are becoming addicting to them. So our question is, does video games really bring only disadvantages, and does it really not bring any advantages to teenagers? So we'll definitely find out right now.
Gaming is hugely popular. There are over 3 billion gamers worldwide and growing every year. Teenagers nowadays spend a lot of time playing video games. This will cause the teenagers to waste their time. So teenagers will lose focus on their study and make their grade plummet. Podcaster John Rogan of the John Rogan Experience, who also happens to a UFC ringside commentator, recently went to a tirade about video games and warned that people who play video games are gonna waste their time. He took aim at the idea that games are a problem, a waste of time, and gamers are aimless children. According to a children health poll from the CS Mod Children's Hospital National Poll, 86% of parents believe that their adolescent children are spending excessive amount of time playing video games. The poll says that many of these parents might be mistaken about the actual time their kids are spending on gaming. In my opinion, playing video games is a waste of teenagers' time because when they start playing video games, they can't stop because of their addiction. If teenagers are not playing games, they can use this time to do many meaningful things such as studying, learning other skills, exercising, watching the news, and more. This will help teenagers become smarter, improve their academic performance by leaps and bounds, and keep them more informed of the latest news from around the world. So I feel that playing games is not only a waste of teenagers' time, but also makes teenagers ignorant of all kinds of news in the world and make them unfamiliar with the world.
I'm totally disagree of it. Like, our parents often told us that gaming is a waste of time. Gaming, if you keep gaming, yeah, you will not have a bright future. But for me, now it's like 21st centuries. Gaming have become more popular than you think it would be, and a lot of youngsters nowadays can definitely find a job by just playing the games. Like, for example, if you want to become a professional gamer, let's say, you can definitely form up a team choosing a gaming platform and just participate in several tournaments. And the average salaries for professional gamers in the world, based on statistics, is up to $4,000 to $5,000 per month. But that's not it, alright? The tournament price is up to 50,000 or even higher, or even up to like 1 million or above. So you can definitely earn a lot of money just playing games, right? You can definitely find a job in several social media platforms such as YouTube, Twitch, and etc. etc. The job is about playing. You play the games and you upload the video or open up a live stream for them to watch. And based on the watch rate and watch time by the viewers, you get to earn money based on that.
Alright, so for the cause of depression in teenagers, in a study called ABAS 2020, they examined if teenagers have gaming disorders and depression or not. And what they found is that 526 people were affected with gaming disorders and depression. And other than that, having to face mental issues like after having depression, teenagers will often stay in their room and isolate themselves from everybody, isolate themselves from people that are important to them, like family, friends, and that often can lead to very serious problems. And it might cause their mental health to plummet as well. And there's also this important part is that most gamers, before they start gaming, they were already depressed in the first place, and then they rely on gaming as their stress relief. And yes, it does release their stress, but it's only for a temporary amount of time. And the more they game, the more addicting it becomes. And eventually, when there's no more gaming, when they aren't able to game, they get more and more depressed. Depression gets worse, and it affects their mental health. So yeah, that's my reason of why gaming should be banned in teenagers, because it causes a lot of depression in them.
Hi, I'm Lising. So I'm disagreeing that teenagers should be banned from video games because of the reason that playing video games will cause depression in teenagers. So based on the studies I have found, state that playing video games is actually can be a stress reliever for teenagers and even can improve their social skills and cognitive thinking skills. I think my evidence is strong enough to disagree with banning video games for teenagers. I know that a few objections says that playing a video game could lead to depression in teenagers. So but I would like to say that the situation is basically only happens for the people who have gaming disorder which they play video game excessively until they could not afford in real life. So therefore I think that playing video game as a stress reliever is possible for every teenagers. So at least don't play too immersed in the game and do complete the work you have in reality, then get into the game and release all your negative emotions.
Hi, I'm Famkashan, and I agree that teenagers should be limited to play video games. This is because teenagers are easily influenced by the violence and sexuality of video games, such as Grand Theft Auto, Manhunt, and Call of Duty. One study reveals that young men who are habitually aggressive may be especially vulnerable to the aggression and hunting effect of repeated exposure to violent games, said psychologists Craig A. Anderson and Karen Iredale. Another research found out that the effect of media violence exposure has shown robust association among violence media exposure, increased aggressive behavior, and decreased empathy. Another news also showed that a 17-year-old student, Warren LeBron, repeated battering his friend with a hammer and stabbing him to death at the park. And according to CNN News, he was obsessed with the game called Manhunt. I believe that the argument is valid after looking at the evidence. All of the evidence strongly prove that the teenagers will be easily affected by the violence and sexuality of video games.
Here is an argument saying that games is waste of money. There are a lot of news stated that children spend all their parents' living expense and savings in games. Such news is constantly emerging. In China, children spend even up to 1 million Chinese yuan on games without their parents knowing that. The harm that brings to society is enormous. For the country, this will decrease the overall living standard of the people and limiting the country development. From a research, in America alone, people spent over $43 billion on games in 2018, and globally, video gaming's global revenue is estimated to be nearly $140 billion in 2019. It was a lot of money spent on games. So, in my opinion, purchasing a game or in-game products is really unneeded. Teenagers have no income, but they spend a large mass of money in games frequently, which they can't afford it. So I think it's good to ban game to solve the problems.
So based on my research and personal life experience, I would say that I agree that video games should be banned or at least limited to teenagers. Now, various research results concluded that playing video games more than 3 hours a day do affect the quality and the quantity of an individual's social life. Now, as a matter of fact, people who play video games showed less confidence and less social interactions with others. That's what we call introverts nowadays. What's more is that the nature of every game differs from one another. You could find games that trigger teamwork, other games trigger competition. That's what you might think. They're good, right? Are they good? The real question is, are they really good to the player? The advertisers of the game would publicly say that teamwork is good. We teach you teamwork, we teach you competition, we teach you reflexes. That's what you might get in your head. Now, the reality is, they're just trying to get you deeper in the game. The deeper you get, the more money they make. The more time you spend behind the screen, the more time you spend away from people. Now, the less humans you interact with, the less confidence you'll have in yourself. You wouldn't know how to speak to people. You wouldn't know how to speak to a girl, for example. Now, apart from the nature of a game, studies have shown excessive amounts of hours spent on video games lead to negative impact on health, negative moods, depressive syndrome, and weak social interactions. Not to mention the lack of the lack of physical movement that turns you fat. And when you're fat, you get bullied. When you get bullied, what happens? Your confidence goes all the way down, which in return turns you to be an introvert. I am speaking from personal experience that happened to me. That's why I think video games should be banned.
Everyone, I would like to say I agree on the video game ban on teenagers. Teenagers nowadays, in the 21st century, tend to become addicted to video games and not focus on important stuff in their life, for instance, academics. There are a few studies that proves my point, which shows that playing video games and getting addicted to it is directly proportional to declining of teenagers' academic performances. Recently, China restricted their teenagers, which is under 18 years old, from playing video games for more than 3 hours per week. This even more motivates me to stand by my point that video games are very bad for teenagers and really affects their academic performances. I would also like to say that people who are not disciplined get addicted to video games and they have lack of time management, and this causes them to study less, thus provide them with less time to study and also bad academic performances. So I would like to stand by my point and say that video games is bad and also will cause students' academic performances to decline. Thank you.
I disagree that teenagers should be limited to video games. This is because teenagers can learn useful skills and train their skill in video games. I will take some examples of useful skills, and the skill can be used by teenagers in everything. For example, the world building games like Minecraft. This game can train their creativity skill because they can unleash their creativity in the games. The video games also can train teenagers' problem solving skill. Video games can help players learn from their mistake and they will risk it, so they will try to correct their mistake in the next game. When teenagers play the team-based games such as LL, CSGO, they need communication and teamwork to win the games, so they can train their team spirit and social skill. Leadership skills are important in reality, and this skill can be trained in video games. When playing the parts of a virtual general or ruler. Last, teenagers can train and learn their skill while enjoying their favorite video games.
Relationship builder. There are lots of teenagers that come from a poor family. This will cause teenagers to rarely hang out with their friends at the shopping complex. But those teenagers can still play games with their friends in own house and foster their relationship with friends. Games such as CSGO, Valorant, Apex Legends, Rocket League, and many more will also need players' teamwork to win the game. If they win matches in games together with their friends, their relationship will also become closer. Possibility of meeting new friends while playing games wasn't zero. This is due to the reason that there are a lot of multiplayer games that have chat features now in it nowadays. Teenagers might just use it and end up knowing lots of friends in games. The link above is statistic about teenagers that play games together with their friends. Imagine if games got banned in their country, they cannot play game with their friend, and it will end up making teenagers have distance between themselves. After the discussion, our group disagreed with banning games to teenagers. Although game will bring a lot of disadvantages to teenagers, there are lots of ways to overcome them. For example, if teenagers can balance their gaming and study time, their academic results will not be affected. Moreover, teenagers would not waste their time if they manage their time properly and limit themselves to not play more than a few hours per day. Based on the evidence we have, every bad influence is basically caused by excessive gaming, so it is good for teenagers to play game while having appropriate time management. Gaming isn't really the root of why teenagers are depressed. They are pressured by expectations and society and need some way to escape. Banning games will take away their source of comfort and make things worse for their mental health. Overall, our group thinks that teenagers' game time should be limited instead of banning them from playing games.